All right, Coach Garvey, let's start off talk a little bit about last week. Obviously, it was kind of a tale of two halves. We turned the ball over a few times in that second half, which led to a lot of points for Westminster. But ultimately, just to talk about what you took from last week and where you move forward from there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, I think our efforts are always there, and we don't lack in that department at all. Obviously, the biggest thing you take away from last week is the turnover game. We gave them the ball too many times, easily, and it ended up, ultimately cost us in the football game with some other, mistakes, as well. But certainly, when you look at it statistically, the one thing that stands out is the difference in turnovers. So, we have to, gather ourselves, recollect ourselves, and get that fixed.
Let's talk a little bit about the defense. Once again, they had 11 tackles for loss. Donovan Hayden led the way with 14 tackles, forced 2 fumbles in the game. Talk about what he's meant to your defense over the last couple of years, and talk about your defensive effort as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's where our effort starts. I think everybody else feeds off of it, from our defense to the rest of our team, because those guys do play with great effort, all the time, and they play with that passion and excitement that you should see out of a good defense. And Donovan's no different. In fact, he might be the core of the whole thing. He's a quiet guy, but he's not quite on the field in the way he performs and how he leads by example. So, he is a very, like I've said all the time, he's a very dynamic player. He can run very well and tackle people for losses, and just, a very hard person to try and game plan for, because of how dynamic he is and different things that he can do for a defense.
Let's move on. Let's talk about this week. Waynesburg coming up back on the road for the first time in 3 weeks. Yep. What have you seen on tape about the Yellow Jackets? What do you know about them?
Yeah, I mean, the same thing I think you always see about them is that they're a tough physical football team ready to play week in and week out, just like most of the teams in this conference are. But, they're going to try and run the ball. That's what they've done for the last few years for sure, and they try to come in and do that to you. Obviously a little bit younger than they've been in the past, certainly at some key positions like quarterback. So, but still a very good football team, and we'll be ready to play, and certainly for a home game, they'll certainly be ready to play against us.
Last week, Eric Blinn became the conference's all-time career holder in receptions. The week before that, it was receiving yards. Yeah. How will he go this week, or what do you need to do to get him involved? I know he's had some recent success against Waynesburg. I think he's averaging 9.5 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown in 3 years over the last 3 games against Waynesburg. What sort of matchups does he like with that team, and what do you see out of him this coming week?
Yeah, we expect the same thing week in and week out of him. We're going to throw the ball to him quite a bit. We're going to put him obviously in different spots like we've been doing really for the last 2 years to try and get matchups that are in his favor and in our offense's favor. So, that's what we're going to continue to do. And, I just think it's a little bit more coincidental that the stats are built up that much against Waynesburg. I think if you look at some other teams, it's probably exactly the same. He's a very good player, and he's our go-to guy. And, for lack of a better term, as he goes, we go to a certain extent. So, again, but we have other guys in our system here who can do things and create for us and help us win football games as well.
Over the first 3 weeks, Waynesburg has given out 10 touchdown plays of over 30 yards or more. We've actually had 10 touchdown plays of 30 yards or more as well. What sort of advantage do you think that poses? I know Waynesburg's got a solid defense, but they do have the affinity to give up the big play. What do you see out of that, and what maybe can you exploit out of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we just got to take our shots for sure, as we do, again, really against any opponent. Obviously, they're, maybe statistically giving it up a little bit more, but again, they are a little bit younger than they've been in probably the last 2 or 3 years. So I think that's, a big reason why that's happening. They're a little bit younger on defense for sure, and with that comes, the little tiny mistakes that get the ball thrown over your head a little bit, or missed tackles that can spring a run. Anything that happens when you're a little bit younger on defense, maybe. So, we're going to try and get our matchups and our advantages the way we think we can, and hopefully exploit that very, very well.
At the PAC Media Day, there were only 2 offensive players there. It was Eric Blinn for Bethany and Willie Lavelle for Waynesburg. He seems to be the oldest guy on their offense, a team that's got a lot of new guys starting on that offensive front. How do you slow him down, and how do you slow down their offense?
Yeah, I think slowing them down is obviously first and foremost stopping the run, because I think that's more than maybe almost anybody in this conference, I think they may be the one that, tries to run the ball right away all the time if they can do it. Where maybe some other teams are maybe not as run heavy. You know, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I think certainly, you know, the Waynesburg teams of the past have tried to do that, and if they have success running the ball, they're going to continue to do it, and really not even try to mix it up. So, you know, we got to contain that guy. He's a dynamic player. He's probably their most dynamic player and their most explosive player, so we got to keep in check, you know, and make sure we know where he is all the time.
What are your biggest keys for this week to bounce
Obviously,
back?
you know, the only one we're talking about right now is ball security, right? We got to hold on to the ball, disrupt the ball when it's our chance to, which we did a pretty good job. But you know, we gave it away quite a bit on offense and one time in the kicking game. So, you know, it's the number one thing right now is ball security and turnovers.